questions already to get us started, so very excited. Why don't we kick it off with a few introductions? So, Bo, I'll let you go to who you are, the context of who you are with respect to the Visioneers, and maybe where you are in the world right now.
Okay, great. Hi, everybody. My name is Bo Frank. I'm the head of talent strategy and recruiting here at the Xprize Foundation. I am here in beautiful, sunny, and warm Southern California, out in part of Los Angeles. I am project manager along with a great team of mine in recruiting this great program we have called Visioneers. All of you to be part of our program, which we'll talk more about what that really entails and answer your questions. But we're super excited to be able to partner with our sister organization, HeroX, on this great and exciting opportunity.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Bo. Mackenzie, I'll hand it over to you.
Hi guys, I applied to the Visioneers program last year through the HeroX platform, and I made it. So I'm one of the success stories, I guess, from that perspective. And then I kind of have a unique journey through that, and the team I got placed on, and then our outcome, which we were one of the, I guess, top ranking teams, and we're moving forward. So I absolutely love both platforms with Xprize and HeroX, and I'm excited to answer your questions today.
Awesome. And what was the Xprize competition that you designed during Visioneers?
I was placed on the transportation team. And we're carrying it forward, so it's a bit of a secret right now, but to be launched soon, but I'm still working on it.
Awesome. Alex?
Hi everyone. I'm Alex. I'm a social entrepreneur that's originally based in Paris, but right now I'm calling from LA. So that's actually one of the success components of the Xprize, Visioneers, is that you can actually, it can actually open new horizons for you guys if you want to consider a career in the United States. So I was recruited by Bo and applied through the HeroX platform through the Visioneers competition 2016. And I got on the empathy team. We were trying to see how we could design a competition to incentivize innovation in the empathy space. And we were sponsored by the Roddenberry Foundation. So Gene Roddenberry actually created Star Trek. So it was really cool to be sponsored by the Star Trek universe as a whole. And yeah, so I'm very excited to be here. But I guess the project is moving on in a different way than as Mackenzie. But I guess I'll have more time to talk about that later. Thank you so much. Thank you so much in advance for your questions. I'm really excited to answer them.
Fantastic. Thanks, Alex. And my name is Kyla Jeffrey. I'm on the HeroX team. I've been with HeroX for about a year now, located in Vancouver, Canada. Worked on the Visioneers Challenge last year, got to know Mackenzie and Bo, and now I get to meet Alex as well, and it's just really phenomenal. I loved hearing Mackenzie's stories throughout the summer and throughout Visioneers, and I'm really excited that both Mackenzie and Alex are here to share some of those with you. It's been fantastic working with Bo as well. So I'd like to hand it over to you, Bo, to give a little bit of a background and introduction into what the Visioneers is.
Sure. So for those of you who might not be familiar with Xprize, our foundation, we are a 501c nonprofit organization that really has a mission to change the world through incentivized competition. We actively seek out opportunities in the world that we feel that either big business or government aren't addressing. So big issues such as pollution in our oceans, or cures for diseases, or education for both children and adults that have no reading and writing capability. Tackling these issues that we do through incentivized competition. So we'll design a competition, we'll throw it out to the global crowd, such as people like yourself, and we'll say, here's the problem. If you can find a solution within our parameters and timeline, you will get a cash prize. And the prize could be anywhere from $1 million to $30 million. We currently have 9 active competitions going on at the Xprize Foundation that range everything from space exploration to if you're a Star Trek fan, it's called the Qualcomm Tricorder, which is a personal health device, to, as I mentioned, education and climate prizes. The Visioneers program in specific plays a very integral part in the process of basically designing and validating a prize idea. So we will partner with a sponsor, that could be a corporate sponsor, a philanthropy, a high net worth individual, and we will partner with them on one of our what we call prize roadmap domain areas. The domains are the areas we do competitions in, and we will say we will create a team of folks that are both specialists in that specific prize area, but also generalists, people with really good project management skills, writing skills, communication skills, and they will work independently with each other, but also remotely with Xprize over a 6-month period to design a competition. That competition is really the Visioneers process. So when we're talking to folks like you today, it's really to identify great talent to be on one of those teams to help us design these prizes. We will have a total of 6 prize areas that we will be building these teams around. They all range in different areas from, again, prize ideas from space to energy to climate and more. And once those teams have been assembled and designed the prize over a 6-month period, the Visioneers process culminates with a physical summit. It is here in Los Angeles. We bring all the teams together, but also about 300 what we call mentors. There are people in our ecosystem of Xprize that are experts in all of these areas that we're building these prizes around. And the teams that you potentially all could be part of will present your prize idea that you designed over 6 months to these 300 mentors. They will critique each of your prize ideas and help us evaluate them as far as if they are what we would consider Xprizeable, meaning that they would be great prize ideas that we would then want to go on and launch. To give you just a very quick idea of this past year, 2016 process, we had, at our last summit, we had 9 teams, which was probably too many. This year we're going to shoot for 6 teams, but we had 9 teams, and out of those 9, 5 of the teams were evaluated to be Xprizeable, and 3 of those are going on to launch to be Xprizes this year in 2017. So it's a great pipeline development for us. It's also a great design and validation for our sponsors as well as us to make sure that we are creating prizes that really have true impact in the world.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Bo. Does anyone have any questions about what Bo just said before we move on? Awesome. I'm going to share my screen here just so that I can walk you through a little bit more of the logistics of what this looks like. So a really exciting process. Right now we're in this apply to be a Visioneer. And so this is the HeroX component where you get to submit your application, tell us who you are, what you're up to, what you think an Xprize competition could potentially look like. As I think everyone here knows, we're looking at applications as they come in and evaluating them on a rolling basis. And so this is really the stage that we're in right now. After that, we have a really great boot camp in Los Angeles. And so that's really the kickoff of this Visioneers process where you get to tackle a grand challenge, as Bo described, and design what an Xprize competition should look like. And all that culminates in the Visioneers Summit at the end of October. And so there are these 4 events in Los Angeles. I know a lot of people have had questions. I can't attend all 4. Can I still participate? Unfortunately, you do need to be able to attend all 4. If you can't attend them all, feel free to send me an email and I'll put you on our list for if anything else comes up in future years, but you do need to be available for all of these different events. The other thing I would like to show you is how to sign up. So we're just going to go through this really quickly, and then we'll get into the fun part with the question and answer. So when you come to the challenge page here, you need to click Accept Challenge. And you'll be taken to the legal agreement. Once you read through this, you can accept it, and you'll see this orange button has now been replaced. So to start your submission, just click Submit My Idea, and you can begin to work through this form. I would highly recommend you start early. As we mentioned, we're looking at the great applications that are coming in already, so do get your application in, and if you have any questions as you go through it, feel free to reach out. You can also save your draft as you go. The last thing I want to mention before I move into the fun question and answer part is that we've already had a number of people submit their entry, and you can go ahead and take a look at the public component of these submission forms. So really great. You can click on them, see what they're about, who they are, a brief overview of the prize concept, only questions that are marked public that you're able to see. The rest are hidden, but really great to go in. Feel free to post a comment, talk to the other Visioneers. You're really forming a great community here. So with that, I would like to pass it over to Mackenzie to talk a little bit about what your experience was like in the Visioneers, what that process meant for you, maybe the opportunities that it opened up, for the pivotal moments that you really remember.
Hi guys. So the experience was incredible. To be clear, I see some questions popping up, so maybe my experience will help you answer those. But I was working full-time 100 hours a week in investment banking, and I had already quit my job because I was kind of looking for something else in my life. And so at the time I started applying for something like this, I was looking for a mission in a company that really aligned with me personally. So it just so happened that HeroX and this whole platform really worked for me. And so I was not working a full-time job, so I didn't have that time schedule conflict, which just so happened to be perfect for me. I don't think it's necessary, but it would probably be helpful. But because I had that flexibility and openness, it allowed me to attend everything from beginning to end in LA, and it allowed me to kind of have an open horizon. I didn't have any full-time job expecting me back at the cubicle. I know this level of autonomy is kind of hard to get in your life because you have a lot of things that are needing you, but certainly that contributed to the level of my success. So I really think the time on ground in LA is really important for developing relationships with your sponsors. Another thing I want to iterate is that in my application for the Visioneers program, I had a healthcare concept because I come from healthcare technology. Just to be clear, I didn't develop, that's not the plan that I ended up developing during Visioneers. That was just a way on the application for everyone to understand kind of how my brain works as an entrepreneur, as a prize developer. And so they kind of reviewed me as a candidate in the way I think with that healthcare concept. But whenever I got into Visioneers, I worked with my team on a transportation project. So that was my case, and maybe in your application it'll be more similar, but just so you know, it's not necessarily your concept. You're going to be contributing your brain in the way you think, but it's not your idea. It's not your company. It's not, you're contributing your development and your prize design to the process, which is really helpful, but there's not really any intellectual property surrounding that. And so you kind of go into this, and Xprize finds a sponsor, and that sponsor comes from an industry that has a passion about something. And so you'll be given just a general category, like mine was transportation. And within that, you kind of come to an agreement between what is deemed prizable and what that sponsor cares about. And you come up with a general prize that fits all of that. And it's super fun and it's very fluid. You work with your team to develop that. But it's nothing like, this is my company, I'm gonna start it, Xprize is gonna fund it. It's not really like that. So maybe that will clear some things for you, but I had an unbelievable experience. I would recommend it for anyone to clear their schedules and go into it open-hearted with not low expectations, not high expectations, but kind of none, and just do it and let the experience settle into you. And it really, really has made a huge difference in my life. And now I am working solely for a company, well, Xprize, but their mission and my personal mission are so aligned, and it's just a very fruitful and happy existence. So cheers to everyone.
Great, thank you. I picked up that you said that, it cleared my schedule and able to be able to participate in the Visioneers. And I think that's a question that a number of people have had, is what that 35-hour time commitment looks like, and if this is something that they need to leave their current job for. So maybe, Bo, I'll pass it over to you if you're the appropriate person to address that question.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think the way Mackenzie answered it was perfect and spot on, in that in a perfect world, this type of opportunity, because it is for 6 months, it is a pretty hands-on, 35-hour-a-week job. That being said, more than the majority of the people that participated as a prize developer or gold innovator had full-time jobs at the same time. The beauty of the model is that outside of these 4 in-person events that we have here in Los Angeles, you're working with your team remotely. So we have people, for example, for part of last year's competition, the team that Alex was on, she was based in Europe and worked with her team, and then she came over here for a while. We had other folks that were in other parts of the world working with their team remotely. And so because of that fluidity, you and your team really have the opportunity to dictate those 30 to 35 hours of when you do it. So if you do have a 9-to-5 job, you can do this after hours or on the weekends, again, assuming that you and your team agree on when the work can get done. As part of that process, when you come to the kickoff here in Los Angeles, think of it really as a real education process for folks that don't know anything about incentivized competitions or how to design a prize. We give them those tools. And so we are very active throughout the 6 months working with the team, giving them deadlines and deliverables and guidance on how to create and deliver those deliverables. And so really folks can design their schedule around those deliverables, basically. So in a perfect world, yes, it would be great if people had the opportunity to do this full time and not have other commitments, but we realize that's not the reality of the world. Also, just to keep in mind, and I think it's mentioned in the competition, that we believe in paying folks for great work. So all of the folks that are part of our program do receive a stipend, a monthly stipend. They also receive expenses paid for their time to come to these 4 events here in Los Angeles. So we want to reward people for great work that they're able to do with us.
Fantastic. Thanks, Bo. Alex, I'll pass it over to you if you want to talk a little bit about your role in the Visioneers, what the experience was like for you.
Yeah, I mean, it was, as Mackenzie said, it was a very transformative experience. I think that it was, if you want to push your limits in terms of your intellectual limits, your emotional, your spiritual limits, Visioneers is the place for you, because Xprize is such an, an innovation engine. It just, I guess, creates these very experiential trainings like Visioneers. And so if you want to develop your exponential mindset, I was just looking at the chat box here, and people are already familiar with Singularity University. I think that it's not just about a 1 week program at SU. This is a 6-month experience at Xprize, where you're going to be working close, one-to-one with top sponsors, people in the industry that are just leading the industry. And we were sponsored by the Roddenberry Foundation, so we got to hang out with the creators of Star Trek. And this is a sort of deep immersive training in LA that you'll be provided. So it's definitely not comparable to other types of 1 week programs. And as far as the singularity of the experience for me, I think that it allowed me to come to the United States. It was my ticket plane, my plane ticket to the United States. And thanks to the Xprize ecosystem, actually, I got the chance to meet people from Hyperloop, and I'm consulting now for Hyperloop. So there is, the future after the Xprize Visioneers is very bright in the sense that it just connects you to a wide network of very exponential entrepreneurs that are just about moonshot, challenges. And so it's definitely eye-opening it was eye-opening for me, and I hope that it will be eye-opening also for you.
Yeah, I think those are great points you make, Alex, in that, I tell people all the time that this opportunity is not just about, the majority of the opportunity is really helping define an issue in the world and move down the path to creating a solution to really a big global problem, right? But at the same time, as social entrepreneurs, you have the opportunity to network and get to know the Xprize ecosystem of really amazing individuals in the world. All you have to do is go to our website to see the excitement and the interest and the people that are associated with our organization. And you get to really feel that at the culmination of the 6 months when you're at the summit, the physical summit, presenting, and you have 300 of the smartest, brightest minds in the world sitting in front of you, all eyes on you, giving you their full attention. I mean, gosh, you couldn't think of a better interview setting to have if you're looking for a new opportunity.
Exactly. And I mean, I remember how Marcus always used to insist on the fact that he wanted to feature us as rock stars. Because where in the world are you going to be, as a social entrepreneur, maybe you're marginal in the entrepreneurial world because you're trying to combine business with meaning, business with purpose. But at the Xprize, Xprize is actually the place where you can be featured and you can be, put on stage in a very produced, Oscar-worthy stage and do your thing in front of these philanthropists, these entrepreneurs. So yeah, it's pretty unique, especially since Los Angeles is really at the nexus of Silicon Beach, definitely media, entertainment, Hollywood, and business. So it's really the place to be. Yeah.
Fantastic. So I want to get into some of these questions. I know we've got a lot of questions coming in. So one question is talking about the market need for a solution. I think this is referring to how we're asking people to develop their prize concept. What can they see as an Xprize? And as Mackenzie mentioned, that's really trying to look at how you think, right? How do you think about problems? How do you think as an entrepreneur? And so this question is asking, we emphasize that there should be a market need for the solution. And as Bo mentioned in his introduction, an Xprize really fits to somewhere where government and business is not already tackling it. So what's the right balance between something with a proven enough market need, but not so much that it's not already the target of business and government? Does anyone want to take a stab? I can certainly answer this one.
Oh, I'm sorry. I kind of lost you on some of the questions, so I'm not very clear what the question was.
Sure. So the question was talking about how Xprize really addresses market failures, right? So it's somewhere where there's a need, but it's not currently tackled by business or government. And I think there's a bit of confusion between the interplay of something that has this market need for the solution and is not quite being tackled by business and government. And so how do those two really align?
Well, I think they align in a lot of different ways, and it's a much longer conversation. But again, when you look at really, it's very simple to look at what becomes an Xprize. So if we're looking at a market issue that, again, big business or government feel are either things that we can't tackle for various reasons. Maybe there are socio-political reasons, maybe it's a technology issue. A lot of times with the Xprize, we find technology solutions, particularly exponential technologies, can solve a lot of the problems in the world that we're looking at. And so, again, it's a fine line between, and many variables, frankly, that will help us decide what becomes an Xprize, where is the point of entry, and why big business or government don't want to tackle it. And sometimes it's not always that they don't want to tackle it; they just don't know how to. And we have a motto here at the Xprize is that the smartest people in the world do not work at the Xprize. The smartest people in the world do not work at NASA. The smartest people in the world work everywhere and in places that we don't even know about. And so our model of trying to harness that great intellectual capability through competitions like that is really how we address these big issues.
Great, thanks so much, Bo. So someone else, we've had a couple questions about stipends and travel expenses, and I think Bo already addressed them, but I still see them coming in. So as Bo mentioned, there is a stipend involved, and your travel expenses within reason are paid for the events in LA that you need to attend in person. Is there anything else that you'd like to add to that, Bo?
I just think that, yeah, you pretty much covered it. The stipend is something that we pay out monthly. It is pretty handsome stipend. It's something that, again, we want to reward people for work well done, and that we also know that this is a heavy lift for a lot of people while they're trying to juggle other things in their lives. And then obviously the expenses. So we have as you showed earlier on the screen, we have a kickoff here in early April in Los Angeles. So hotel, airfare, all of that great stuff, transportation is covered for that, meals, similar to the other 3 events. That the 4th and final event is the summit. It is at a 5-star resort here in Los Angeles, a suburb of Los Angeles, and the resort is called Terranea. So if you want to Google that and see where you could potentially be hanging out for 3 days, as Mackenzie and Alex can tell you, it's a pretty amazing experience in itself. And all of those expenses, again, are paid as well.
You can see it in Mackenzie and Alex's face as you were talking about that.
That was not a waste of time, let's just say. I would relive.
For sure, for sure. So what are 3 major traits that you look for in a Visioneer?
Wow, that's a great question. I think there's a lot of great traits, but certainly an entrepreneurial spirit is super important. As I think it was Mackenzie had mentioned, and I'm glad she brought it up, that your idea, all of you out there that are what we would call the social impact bold innovators in a lot of ways, you have fantastic ideas, and not necessarily, in most cases, we're not going to be able to tackle your specific idea. But what we really look at when we're looking at what you're passionate about, and that's why we ask what you're passionate about, is it gives us that entrepreneurial lens into how you think about things. So that entrepreneurship is super important. Being very inquisitive to the world, obviously, is very, very important to all of us. We often are saying, why do we have to say no? Why we're constantly questioning the world about why we can't do something. And so I think that's a spirit in people that we look for. Certainly for this type of role, from a more tactical standpoint, folks that are organizationally strong, meaning they know how to organize around a team, look at responsibilities and parse out work to make sure that we're meeting deadlines. That's super important. A lot of times, particularly with very creative individuals, that skill set is not always as matured as the creativity for various reasons. And so finding that right balance of being a really creative and entrepreneurial spirit, but at the same time having a business-centric mindset that you can also meet deadlines and understand how that all works is super important, I think, as well.
Awesome. So Alex or Mackenzie, what did you find? Did you want to chip in there, Mackenzie?
Yeah, I wanted to chip in on the entrepreneurial spirit one. So I think that just by self-prescribing or diagnosing yourself as an entrepreneur, you know how to identify a problem and then reverse engineer a solution, maybe a track or an interesting way of getting there, figuring that out. And by raising your hand and saying, I'm interested in learning what it means to design a prize and be a prize designer, which, by the way, they don't teach in college, you're saying, I don't want to solve the problem. I want to define the problem in such a way 1 million people want to solve it. And that's a really important distinction. And it really takes an entrepreneur to go, let's as clearly and as in such a compelling way define that problem. And it removes the burden from you to solve it, which is actually probably the most refreshed I've ever felt in my life, because you're kind of handing that over in a clear way to the world and they get to solve it. And it's just a really impactful thing. But I would add another tally to the entrepreneurial spirit for the top 3.
Right. Yeah. If I can just jump in on this one, I totally agree. I think that was also one of the shifts that I had to operate, because as entrepreneurs, we're such problem solvers. So actually, we want to solve the challenge that the Xprize is tackling. But no, as prize designers, you have to learn how to withhold and actually just paint the picture of what the problem is, why people are not solving it, and how we can incentivize innovation in that space so that you can actually attract problem solvers to tackle it. So it was a very, in a sense, it was an intellectual shift that was very interesting to do and to experience. So yeah, I totally agree with you on this one, Mackenzie.
So then the flip side of that is, what did you find the biggest challenge was as a Visioneer?
Don't be shy, Alex and Mackenzie.
The biggest challenge, maybe, I think it's because I think that this will be really linked to my personal situation coming from France. So my biggest challenge was when I had to actually leave my home country and come here like full-time, three months in LA. So maybe my biggest challenge was to make that choice. My biggest challenge was to say, okay, what do I want to do? Do I want to make this, do I want to go full on with this adventure? Or do I want to just stay in Paris and then, check in on Zoom and do my thing on my own? So maybe that was more like a personal choice with regards to, like leaving your family and your friends and just coming to this place where you have great new friends and colleagues, but it's you got to make Visioneers your home at that point. So I guess that was but it's really linked to my own trajectory. So anyway.
Yeah, I think, I will echo that. I think that the time commitment is a challenge for folks, because certainly people that we are inspired to have part of this program are people like Mackenzie and Alex that have a lot going on because they're very passionate about all the things in different parts of their lives. And so being able to carve out that time to dedicate for 6 months. And again, in our case, it does not need to be in person. Like Alex said, she made that choice to come over here, and we were super happy she did, because it allowed her to be a lot closer to her team in the competition. But the majority of the teams didn't do that. And so I think that's a good call out, that, you really have to be ready to make that personal commitment to this experience. And I think people are really excited and happy when they do it, though, at the end.
Awesome. I know a lot of people are asking about teams, how I get formed on a team. Can I apply as a team? What does that process look like?
Sure, that's a great question. So the team, so through this competition and anywhere that we recruit for this program, there are 3 roles on each of the teams. So again, just to reiterate, we will have 6 sponsors, corporate, philanthropy, high net worth individual, it could be any of those, who will sponsor these teams to design these prizes over 6 months. On each one of those 6 teams, there will be 3 key roles. There will be the team lead, which is called the bold innovator. The bold innovator is typically someone who comes from the background of whatever that prize that we're trying to design is. So for example, if we're trying to design a prize around a cure for ALS, the bold innovator in that case would come from the ALS scientific community, because they're really the one who can weigh in on, what are the technical critical issues and obstacles that need to be addressed in order to design a prize. I think Alex put it really, really well. We at Xprize, we're not in the business of creating the solution. We create the platform and throw it out to the world to solve. And sometimes that is hard, because we want to solve it ourselves. But the reality is we don't have the solution. If we have the solution, we wouldn't need a prize. So we're throwing it out to the world to do. And so in order to do that, when you're designing a competition, you need folks that know a lot more about that specific area than we do individually. So that's the bold innovator. Then the other 2 roles are what we call prize developers. And these are the folks that are really working collectively with the bold innovator around the design. So some of the tasks and responsibilities of a prize developer really lie around project management, writing capability, research. Because again, think about when you're trying to design a competition for something that no one has solved before, you have to go out and do your homework and spend a lot of time talking to experts and taking notes and understanding the barriers to entry and the problems in coming up with a solution. And so the prize developer roles are really specific to that. So folks can, and we saw this last year, folks can submit as a team, but again, we're really looking at people individually and putting them onto teams. We would love to be able to place people onto teams of areas that they have interest in. That's not always the case that we're able to do that. As Mackenzie had mentioned, because we're not creating a prize design around your specific area of impact, and we're looking more at your individual skill set. We really look at team members to be able to be transferable through to different teams where they're needed. And so if you are someone that says, look, I'm only interested in being on a team around ocean exploration, and either we're not doing an ocean exploration design this year, or we're not, or we don't have a room on that team if we were, please let us know that, because we would obviously need to not be able to consider you if we didn't have that opportunity. This year at least.
Fantastic. So what are the Visioneers' next steps after the summit in October? Whether or not their competition is, marked ready to launch, will they still be involved with Xprize? What does that process look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. And Mackenzie is a great example of that. So once the competition, once the prize design is finished at the Visioneers stage, and we are deeming it being quote unquote Xprizeable. And obviously there's a piece of that still that we need to make sure that we have funding, right? So the opportunity, being a 501c nonprofit, the opportunity is to make sure that we are partnering with sponsors that are interested in not just the design, but also then sponsoring and making it an active competition. So assuming that we do have that funding and the prize is ready to launch, we would love to bring back team members that help design it to play a part in either finishing, if there is any more design work that needs to be finished after that 6 months, and or once we launch the competition, to help us operate and run it. So here at the Xprize, we have a whole team. So I mentioned earlier, we have 9 active competitions going on around the world right now. We have whole teams that manage each one of those prizes from launch all the way through post-prize completion. And so, depending on what the grand challenges we're trying to address and answer in the world, that competition could be a year in length, it could be 10 years in length. And so those teams live with the prizes throughout that time. And so a case in point with Mackenzie, she was part of one of our teams last year, she mentioned, for the sponsored by ANA, the Japanese airline, around limitless travel. That was one of the 3 prizes that was not only Xprizeable, but also ANA graciously has agreed to sponsor to launch that competition. And so we were able to bring Mackenzie back to help us finish off the design, the little work that needs to be done, and then play a really great role in operating and running the prize going forward. So I tell people the exciting piece about this experience is not only do you get to play a very critical role in the design of an Xprize, a potential Xprize competition, but then there is, assuming that we have it funded and it is Xprizeable, there's an opportunity for you to move on and see the other side of the experience, which is to actually run it and work with the teams that are competing for it and be part of the field testing and all of that great stuff that tactically happens once a prize is active.
Great, thanks, Bo. Did you have anything to add to that, Mackenzie?
No, just so we were all brought on in Visioneers, and I felt like it was a team of amateur prize designers, which made it really fun because we all had unbridled expectations and kind of we felt like we had no rules to follow. We just wanted to design the coolest, most ambitious prize ever. And so, for example, every other team at the kickoff pitched kind of their concept of prize design, and within the realm of transportation, we pitched teleportation, like molecular teleportation. So to give you an idea of how crazy we were, we really took the reins on, sorry to spoiler alert you, but we're not doing that anymore. It was just a fun beginning of our journey. But and now here I am. I was basically reconnected back with Xprize in the beginning of the year, and our prize as kind of beginners was handed back to the Xprize staff, and these are the experts now of expert prize designers looking at our model, which we're kind of insecure about because we are total beginners. And I was brought back on a new hybrid team with Xprize to polish it out and to launch it to the public. And I really am happy to fit this role because I'm the only one from the original team that can kind of keep us wed to some of the raw inspiration that was brought, maybe not from an expert level, but from a really big moonshot thinking angle. And so within our team, I often on calls will mention teleportation. Look, this is where we started. We still have to fight for something audacious. And everyone kind of just nods their head at that. And that's the whole vibe of Xprize, and I love it.
Yeah, and if I could also just jump in on this point, even if the challenge you've designed is not Xprizable. It does not make the top 3. You know, you will still be involved with the Xprize, you know, in terms of the connections you can make thanks to the ecosystem. Because it's an incredible, you know, also it's an incredible brand name, you know. It allowed me, for instance, to get into contact with a prominent figure in the virtual reality space, the godmother of virtual reality, Nadia de la Peña. And so she'll be designing the virtual reality application we're working on right now. So even if you're not hired by the Xprize after the Visioneers experience, there's so many things that you can benefit from that experience in terms of the connections, and it's a great career accelerator, I would say.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So we've had a number of questions about the prize idea that people are asked to submit. And I think there might be a little bit of confusion here that it would be great to talk about. One is, you know, if I have a prize idea that's not in my profession, will I be at a disadvantage if that's what I submit as my idea? And then I think, again, you know, if I want to work on multiple challenges, can I submit multiple prize ideas? And so I think maybe some clarification about the purpose of the prize concept and what that really means for your application and then for the next step within Visioneers.
Yeah, I mean, let me touch on that, and then I can hand it over to Mackenzie and Alex to talk about how they actually thought through when they submitted. But from the Xprize standpoint, again, it really goes back to looking at how you think about a challenge in the world. So to answer the question, no, you don't have to design or submit a prize idea around something that is in your industry. In fact, we find when you look at our competitions, our past competitions that have been won, a lot of times the folks that win our competitions have no background in what the prize area is about. We had you know, very famous prize around oil cleanup in the ocean, and one of our final teams was made up of two tattoo artists from Las Vegas who got all the way to the finals, and their technology cleaned up oil out of water 2 times faster than the industry standard. And they had no experience in oil cleanup. But what they did have was great passion for the oceans in this case, and they wanted to try to figure this out. And so that's why we always say the brightest people don't work at Xprize, and they don't always work in the industry of the area we're trying to solve for. And so, again, the purpose is really more to see how you think about an issue, but also to understand your passion and how you think through a problem.
Yeah, so to add on that, case in point, I showed up at the kickoff summit after I was accepted into Visioneers thinking I was on the Cancer Prize. So I showed up and I'm waiting for my shirt to like the purple shirt or whatever to say that I'm on the Cancer Prize, looking for my name on all the tables. And I find out, I'm meeting my sponsors and I find out I'm on transportation. And I'm thinking, oh God, there must be a huge miscommunication because other than drive a car, I don't really know, I don't know. I don't think I'm the right person. And so I was brought on the transportation team in the capacity of a prize developer. And so our bold innovator was, like Bo was saying, the transportation expert. This guy was brilliant. He led our way. He led the way in terms of technologically feasible and relevant direction. But the reason I helped the team, it had nothing to do with what I know about autonomous vehicles or the direction of carbon negative planes or anything like that. It has so much more to do with what I think will motivate people to want to solve this problem. And so it's so much more about the way you think, and especially in the prize developer role, I vote for the generalists and just show and reveal on your application the way you think about things. Of course, it's different. If you're a prize developer or a bold innovator, you really need to have some understanding of that topic, of course, because you're leading the direction of the way the development's going. And so maybe Alex can speak to that because she was a bold innovator for the Empathy Prize.
Yeah, I think that, well, following up what Bo said, I think that the Xprize mindset is really not about, you know, restricting problem solving or prize designing to specialists, because as Peter Diamant says, you know, the expert is most probably the person that can explain to you how things cannot be done. And Xprize is about reversing that and explaining to you what if. It's not about, you know, restraining, you know, limits and thinking about constraints. It's thinking about, you know, it's opening that mindset with a what if type of angle. So definitely, you know, don't be afraid if you're not the specialist of the field that you're presenting the challenge on. It's not a problem. It's actually, you know, it's actually going to be enable you to get that beginner's mindset, that sort of very open-minded type of mindset that really makes the secret sauce of Xprize. So just, I would not limit myself if I were you with these types of considerations. Xprize is where, you know, academics and garage tinkerers can meet. And that's what makes this organization unique.
Great, and there's a couple questions about what this prize concept looks like. So as part of the application, you have to submit, as we've discussed, this high-level prize concept. What money would you attach to your potential idea? What are the guidelines? How do you set these kind of audacious yet achievable goals? And really looking at how you frame this problem. So there's a few questions about, you know, how in depth should this be? What does a 30-second pitch look like? Do you mind talking through a few of those factors?
I'll leave it to Mackenzie or Alex, since they created them in the past.
I think my YouTube video is still on YouTube, and you can probably check it out. It's probably underwhelming, but I think the question was around how do you know how to tie a budget and a timeline to what you're working on in Visioneers? And we didn't. And Xprize provides you with that education, which is so cool, because you come out of this with not only relationships with incredible, brilliant people that you hear about reading in the news, but you yourself, you develop a ton of education on what prize design is like. And so they give you the tools, and at any point they'll partner you up with their stuff to help give you that guidance. And I was on calls all the time with people willing to help us frame that. And so it's a very open process, and you'd learn that. So don't be scared. Hope I answered the question, Kyla.
I think so, yeah. If you were the one that asked it and you're still unclear, feel free to add more detail in there.
Yeah, I think that from a methodological standpoint, you really have to find that sweet spot between what, you know, what is achievable and what is ambitious. You don't want to go for something overly ambitious, like teleportation is really the canonical example of like something that really gets people wound up, but that's far out there. So you want to find the milestone. You want to find actually the thing, like the technological obstacle that maybe can pave the way towards teleportation. But you don't want to go with something that's too feasible, because otherwise, you know, why would an Xprize be, you know, that would be just a waste of Xprize time and resources to incentivize innovation in a field that's already filled with, you know, with experimentation. So you really have to find the right balance between something that's totally you know, sci-fi and something that's contemporary science, you know. And I think that was intellectually the most challenging aspect of the Visioneers competition. So as far as my submission was concerned, I was submitting something on VR and empathy, and I was looking at what already existed in the empathy space, and so I actually submitted something on how virtual reality could be used for conflict resolution, because there are already so many applications that deal with VR and empathy. But how can we now, you know, actually take it a step further and use it maybe at negotiation tables, use it at mediation tables to you know, incorporate that empathy element, but then maybe just add a natural language processing layer that will actually allow people to have an empathetic conversation, not just an empathetic experience. So try to do your research on what already exists, what is already out there in both the business field and the academic field, and you know, also give that very wide perspective, teleportation-like, of what you would like to achieve, like world peace, for instance, and try to find that sweet spot between, you know, what is and what could be. And that's where the Xprize lies. So That's just, but then it varies according to every challenge, I guess. Good luck to you guys.
Yeah, I just love the energy of talking to you guys. Like, just a conversation about the moonshot goals. It's so exciting. So I'm getting really excited about it. I wish I could participate as a Visioneer. So Christopher has been working on his Xprize idea for 4 years and is wondering, if I was selected as a Visioneer, can I jump off at some point and go and win the competition? So I think the first point, Christopher, is that the idea you submit may not necessarily be the one that you go through and develop as part of the Visioneers process, as we've already talked about. And maybe, Bo, I'll hand it over to you for what that would look like after the Visioneers.
I guess I'm confused on the question. After the Visioneers, if Christopher could go back and work on or compete for one of our existing Xprizes?
That was my understanding of the question. If Christian pitches an idea at the Visioneers Summit that then moves forward into a full Xprize, is he able to be a competitor in that competition?
No, he would not be able to be a competitor. And again, the reason being is, in that case, he would have too much inside knowledge about the making of that competition. And so that's the unfortunate part about being part of the design, is that you exclude yourself from being able to compete if it does launch as an Xprize because it's inside information.
And that's a delicate thing to talk about, because you develop a prize that you become really passionate about, and you really envision a future with this a part of it. And you so want to start a company and do that and compete in your own prize. And we actually had, our core team was about to start a whole business to compete in our own prize. And you really feel compelled to do that, especially if you really fall in love with your prize. But just keep in mind conflicts of interest, you know.
Yeah. What did you just laugh at, Alex? I feel like there's
No, I'm sorry. This is side conversation about conflict of interest right now in the United States. I'm sorry.
All right. So how do you decide at the Visioneers Summit which competitions are Xprizable or which competitions are fundable?
Sure, that's a great question. So within the methodology of incentivized competition, we have our own methodology around what we think constitutes an Xprize. And it comes in, and there's many different criteria. In fact, there's 25 criteria. We called it our 25-point scorecard last year. Basically what happens is our mentors, our people that are evaluating each of the teams at the summit, are given a tablet computer, and on that tablet, it has all of these 25 criteria, or scorecard, if you will. And they spend the 3 days going around and listening to all of the team's pitches, as well as having sidebar conversations with the team to understand more about the prize around all of these 25 criteria. And then they're able to weigh them on this scorecard as far as if they are in the zone of Xprizable. And it's pretty, the methodology is pretty strong around what the criteria are and how that translates to being Xprizable or not. We're very quick to say that there's really no winner or loser in our summit. It's really about looking at great ideas and validating if they are Xprizable, and meaning if there's a need in the world for them at this time and space. Teams that didn't meet the Xprize zone, if you will, to be Xprizable, certainly were not bad ideas. They were great ideas that very well could become Xprizes in the future. It was just based on what the experts had evaluated on. It just wasn't the right time and place for that competition to move forward. It very well could be in a year they do move forward. It just depends.
Great. And what happens to the intellectual property in that Xprize idea that they create at Visioneers, but also any intellectual property, if there is any, in their HeroX application?
Well, you could speak to the guidelines on the HeroX piece, but as far as the intellectual property from a competition that you design, obviously when you join, if you're selected to be one of our team members, you sign an NDA and you have a contract with us for the time you're working on it with us that basically states that all the intellectual property that is created during that competition is the property of the sponsor who's paying for that. So, last year, we haven't really talked about sponsors, but to give folks an idea of the caliber of our great sponsors, Of the 9 last year, we had the Clorox company, specifically Brita, water filtration was one of our sponsors. Lowe's Home Improvement. For those of us on the line that are in the United States would know Lowe's is a big home improvement organization in some other parts of the world as well. Caterpillar, the earth moving company, the National Research Foundation of Singapore, the list goes on and on. And so these are great partners for us as part of the sponsorship fee that they pay to both sponsor the team, so we can you know, give you all stipends to play a part on these teams. The exchange for that is that they own the intellectual property for these designs.
Great. And, you know, as you make your application to HeroX, the legal agreement does have that any intellectual property you grant a royalty-free license to Xprize to use. It's very unlikely that your application will have any intellectual property in it, but that is what we have stipulated in the challenge. So we're just at 2 minutes left, so I'd like to hand it over to Bo and Alex or Mackenzie for any closing comments before we say goodbye to everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really, really excited. You can tell, and Kyla pointed out, that the three of us have a lot of passion for this program and for Xprize as a whole. I tell all my friends and family all the time that I have this great privilege and opportunity to wake up every day and go to work at a place that changes the world, literally changes the world for the better. And that's hard to come by. And so the opportunity to help us do that, I think, is so great. The opportunity to meet great other minds such as yourselves during the process. It's fantastic to be part of our ecosystem as a whole and be integrated into you know, some of the most important minds in the world is a chance of a lifetime that people don't get. And so we're looking for all of your great applications. We're super excited and pumped up about the program, and really hope that we get some great talent from this program.
And to add on to that, even now on our conference calls, I like to sometimes open up calls by saying, can you guys believe we get paid to do this? And it's so true. And just by you guys attending this webinar, it shows that you have some level of desire to contribute to such an ecosystem. And it's all about that. And I just encourage you to stay on that trail in your life. And it's the absolute best. So I'm just trying to keep echoing the energy, because it is it's an incredible experience. And thank you, Bo, because you're certainly a big part of my journey. So thanks, Kyla.
Yeah, right. So yeah, just as a conclusion, as you complete your application, just maybe try to a very practical advice that really helped me is that I went through, you know, the history of Xprizes, and I try to, you know, understand what the trajectory of the organization was, and how, for instance, in the abundance pyramid that Peter Diamandis outlines, you know, you have different blocks that have already been tackled by previous Xprizes. So when you choose a challenge area, you know, you try to see how existing Xprizes already address maybe these blocks of the pyramid, and try to see which blocks have not yet been addressed. And I'm thinking about, like, for instance, the freedom block and his abundance pyramid. And that's definitely something that you know, we are, you know, about strengthening democracy, you know, enhancing civic tech. It's definitely something that we need right now. And, you know, just keep on getting inspiration from whatever happens, you know, in your neighborhood, in your community, in your city, in your nation, and try to see how you can actually make a you know, a very compelling challenge proposition and challenge offer in that space, because Xprize is actually the space where you can short circuit, you know, all of the you know, traditional constraints that business models will impose on you. And so if you actually want to yeah, to make a very impactful contribution to the world, Xprize is definitely a launching pad that's pretty unique in this space. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for you know, this experience, for recruiting me, Bo, and for being a fellow Visioneers, Mackenzie, and thanks, Kyla. It was an amazing experience. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, everyone. I know there's a number of questions we didn't get to, so I'll be going through and I'll share those answers on the challenge. So we'll still get those answers out to you. We'll also share this recording so you can go back and see it if there's anything you missed. And I really encourage you to comment on the forum, reach out with any questions that you have. We're really excited to be here to support you and to just see the ideas and the incredible people in this community and the people on this call. So thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Good luck.
Thank you. Good luck to everyone.